Alright, so today we are going to learn how to create the image of water in text form on a wood grain image. So find an image of wood grain, which you don't need to do wood grain, but wood grain works the best because it will distort in the background. So open up in Photoshop. And then when we have the picture in Photoshop, first we are going to go to the channels thing, and from there create new channel, and we can leave this as alpha 1. And from here you're going to make your text, and you want to use a font that looks a little liquidy. I used Dakota handwriting, and when you first click it will appear red, but don't worry, it will go back to black when you're done. So type the word that you want. I'll just use my name here back there, and we can have it center it, deselect, and then to create the image of water droplets, all we're going to do is just take the brush tool, size 39 works fine, and just mess around with droplets. They don't look too great right now, but once we place the effect on them they will look good. So I'm just going to put a few small ones around here. Obviously when you do it you'll probably want a little more thorough than this. Don't want that one. Alright, so now we have a few water droplets. From there, we are going to duplicate this channel. So you go to the arrow, duplicate channel, and as alpha 1 copy, hit OK. And with this copy, you're going to, this is going to be the texture that we use for the glass filter, so we're going to need to blur it. So for that, we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to use a radius of 7 pixels, which should look like this. Not like pink, but like that. So let me go back to the alpha 1, and or from this, the alpha 1 copy, as we're going to need to save this as our texture, we need to save it as a separate image. So we go to duplicate channel again, but this time as the destination you want new, and I will save it as blurred text.psd. So you can save it as anything you want, but I think blurred text is pretty easy. And then hit OK. So now you have this, and save as a PSD. You can just minimize that for now. So after that, we're going to go back to the original image and go back to layers. And from here, we're going to duplicate the background image. You don't need to unlock the background, you just duplicate it with an Apple J. And then, now it is time to apply the glass filter to it with our original, or with our duplicated blurred text. So here we're going to go Filter, Distort, Glass, and here here we're going to load the blurred text as the texture. So for that you hit the load texture and blurred text.psd, load, and there you have that. And you can mess around with the distortion and smoothness to your liking, but I'm going to use 10 for distortion and 4 for smoothness. Keep the scaling at 100, and when you're satisfied with your distortion and smoothness, hit OK. And then you, after this, we go back to the channels and go to the original text image, and what we're going to do is we're going to select that, select the black, and then select the inverse to have the text selected, and then go back to the layers, and in between these two create a new layer and fill the selection with black. And so you can't see it right now, but you should be able to see in your layers bar how it's filled with black. And then we're going to need to join the black text and the original glass layer. So for that you go to this, and then you hit the top image with the wood, and then you're going to Control click, create clipping mask. And then finally, now is when we get to put the effects on here. So for that, you go to your selected black text layer, double click, and first we're going to do bevel and emboss. So here you want a style of inner bevel, technique of smooth, and you can change these around, change the depth, size, and direction up to your satisfaction. And down here, highlight mode of color dodge, and then a shadow of overlay. So, and then you can mess around with the opacity, but I'm going to use 100 for the highlight and 50 for the shadow mode. And then next we're going to put some drop shadow on it, and here you want a blend mode of multiply, and again you can do the opacity however you would like it, but I'll use 50, and you can keep these the same, but I'm going to use a spread of 5, distance of 5, and size of 5, and you can mess around with this, but I'm going to keep the noise at 0. And then next, let's add some outer glow to make it pop out a little. So first, be sure to change this color to black. You want that because it'll just look weird if it's glowing as yellow. And blend mode here of multiply, and a opacity of 60, which again, up to you. And then you want a technique of softer, 0 spread, and a size of 15 pixels, which I'm going to use. And then a 50% range and a 0 jitter is what I'll use, but once again, that's up to you. And then finally, we can add some inner glow. And you'll want to change this one to, instead of a color of yellow, which I'm not sure why we would have that, change it to something that kind of looks like the color in your wood grain. And then from there, I'm going to use a 59% opacity, 0 noise, technique softer, and a choke of 32, and size of 7. And down here, a range of 30 and jitter of 0. And again, on all of the effects here on the text, you can do it however you want, but that's just suggestions, but mess around to your liking. And then we're going to hit OK, and finally deselect. And there we have our text that looks like water on a wood grain, and it's very, very good.